Daedalus was a man whose hand could shape the impossible. In the heart of ancient Greece, his name was known far and wide as a master craftsman unlike any other. Daedalus was not just a builder of walls and roofs. He was a creator of wonders. His mind danced with ideas that no one else could even dream of, and with every invention, his fame spread far and wide. By his side, always eager to learn, was his young son, Icarus. From a tender age, Icarus had watched his father craft marvels, his eyes wide with admiration and a hint of impatience. Where Daedalus would move carefully and thoughtfully, Icarus was bold, always curious, always wanting to push further, even when caution was advised. One day, a messenger from the distant island of Crete arrived at Daedalus's workshop. The ruler of Crete, King Minos, had heard of Daedalus's skills and demanded his help. The task was not a simple one. In fact, it was the most challenging project Daedalus had ever faced. "Build me a labyrinth," King Minos commanded, "a maze so intricate that no one who enters can ever find their way out." Icarus, standing beside his father, felt a thrill. A labyrinth that no one could solve? It sounded like the ultimate adventure. Daedalus, however, was more measured. He accepted the challenge, though he knew this was no ordinary request. King Minos needed the labyrinth to imprison a creature born from a terrible curse, the Minotaur, a beast with the body of a man and the head of a bull. This creature was fierce, dangerous, and could not be allowed to roam free. For days and nights, Daedalus worked tirelessly, his hands moving with the precision of a master and the speed of a man with a vision. Icarus would often hover nearby, fascinated by the intricacy of the designs, but his father's warnings were always firm. "This is no place for recklessness," Daedalus would say, glancing at his son. Icarus would nod, but inside he yearned to explore the labyrinth, to see where each twisting path led. The labyrinth grew, its walls twisting and turning, forming pathways that led nowhere and everywhere all at once. When it was finished, the labyrinth was a marvel, a prison without bars, a puzzle no one could solve. But as the dust settled and Daedalus admired his work, he couldn't shake the feeling that this creation would bring nothing but sorrow. Little did he know, his greatest challenge was yet to come. And it would not be within the walls of the labyrinth, but in the skies above. And so, the story of Daedalus and Icarus begins not with a flight, but with the creation of a prison. A prison that would trap not just the Minotaur, but Daedalus and his son in a web of fate that was slowly closing in around them. As the days turned into months, King Minos, wary of Daedalus's knowledge and fearing that he might one day reveal the secrets of the labyrinth, had locked them away in a high tower on the island of Crete. Though they were not within the twisting corridors of the maze, they were still very much trapped, with no way off the island. Daedalus, however, was not a man to be easily defeated. His mind, always turning with ideas, began to conceive of a plan, a way to escape that no prison walls could ever contain. As he sat in his tower, watching the birds soar freely across the sky, inspiration struck him. If they could not escape by land or sea, then they would take to the air. With great care, Daedalus began collecting feathers, small ones, large ones, any that he could find. Night after night, he worked in secret, weaving the feathers together with thread and sealing them with wax. Slowly, the shape of wings began to take form. They were not the wings of a bird, but they would be enough to carry a man, or perhaps even two, far away from their prison. When the wings were finally complete, Daedalus showed them to Icarus. The boy's eyes widened with wonder as he saw the magnificent creations. They looked like something out of a dream, a gift from the gods themselves. "We will fly from this place, my son," Daedalus said, his voice filled with a mixture of hope and caution. "But you must listen to me carefully. These wings are strong, but they are also fragile. Fly too low, and the sea's dampness will weigh you down. Fly too high, and the sun's heat will melt the wax. You must keep to the middle path." Icarus nodded, his heart pounding with excitement. He couldn't wait to feel the wind rushing through his hair, to leave the island and its prison far behind. He promised his father that he would follow his instructions. As the first light of dawn crept across the sky, Daedalus and Icarus strapped the wings to their arms and backs. With a deep breath, Daedalus took off first, leaping from the tower's edge and catching the wind beneath his wings. For a moment, he wavered, but then he was soaring, his heart lifting with the exhilaration of freedom. Icarus followed close behind, his laughter echoing through the sky as he joined his father in flight. Below them, the island of Crete grew smaller and smaller, and for the first time in a long while, hope swelled in Daedalus' chest. They were free at last. But as they flew, the world beneath them seemed to fall away, and the sky opened up before them, vast and endless. Icarus, caught up in the thrill of it all, began to fly higher, each beat of his wings taking him closer to the sun. Daedalus called out to him, his voice edged with fear, but Icarus was lost in the moment, his promise forgotten. The higher Icarus flew, the warmer the air became. And then, as Daedalus had feared, the sun's heat began to soften the wax. Icarus noticed too late. The feathers were slipping, falling away like leaves from a tree. Panic seized him as he tried to flap his wings harder, but it was no use. The wings disintegrated in his hands, and with a final desperate cry, Icarus plunged towards the sea below. Daedalus could only watch in helpless horror as his son fell from the sky, his heart breaking with each passing second. Icarus hit the water with a terrible finality, and the waves closed over him, leaving nothing but silence. Daedalus, stricken with grief, continued his flight, tears streaming down his face as he made his way to the safety of the nearest shore. He knew he had lost the one thing more precious to him than any invention he had ever created: his beloved son. The sea where Icarus fell would be known forever as the Icarian Sea, and the island near where he was lost would bear his name, Icaria. Daedalus, his heart heavy with sorrow, eventually found refuge in Sicily. There, he built a temple to the god Apollo and hung up his wings as an offering, vowing never to fly again. Years passed, but the memory of Icarus's tragic fall lingered like a shadow over Daedalus. He had escaped the labyrinth and found a new home in Sicily, but the loss of his son weighed heavily on his heart. The wings he had crafted, once symbols of hope and freedom, were now reminders of his greatest sorrow. Daedalus continued to work, his hands still capable of shaping wonders, but the joy that once filled his creations was gone. Each new invention, each brilliant idea was tempered by the memory of Icarus, of the boy who had flown too close to the sun.